How's it going? Wow, already at that point this morning, how's it going? That's a little bit better. My name's Mark. This is my second year here at the show. Last year, I talked a little bit about Amazon and what we're doing in the IoT space, and I talked about it in terms of our company leadership principles. That was super fun. I was thinking, well, what could we do today? And what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about some of the experiences we've heard from our customers and turn it into some tips for you, some observations on what we've seen be successful for our customers in the market. Now, the whole show is this, so I won't belabor this point too much, but you know, this push to digital transformation that IoT is such an important part of is really all about business outcomes. And when we talk to people, it kind of nets out to two things. One is using IoT data to drive operational efficiency and or using some of that IoT data to drive new sources of business opportunity, new products, new streams of revenue. Now, hopefully you can do those things at the same time. Quite honestly, I think on the operational efficiency side is where you see a ton of activity. I think the ROI is a little bit more direct. If I give you $1,000 and you save me $10,000, how does that sound? And we can move ahead. Changing business models, fundamentally transforming businesses, that's a different matter. It's a combination both of technology and a lot of business considerations and a whole lot of thought leadership and courage on the part of the business to change things to help their customers. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. And I'll start off with a little bit of a story with our friends from Buyin Engineering. You may not know this company. If you see an emergency vehicle go by the convention center at some point today, first, hopefully nobody's in too much trouble, but when you see the systems on board that vehicle, that's what Buyin's all about. This is a nearly 70-year-old company, very traditional manufacturer, really great products, but thinking, how do we change things up? How do we do new things for our customers? We have a ton of respect for that at Amazon, where our customer-obsessed nature is always pushing us to think, what can we do that's new and work back from the customer to discover new things? And the CEO there really got convicted about finding new ways to innovate for their customers. And they realized, hey, we have this data. We have this place on the vehicle. We're collecting this data that can be turned into a valuable source of information for our clients. They already had control systems on board. And really using some edge technology, some IoT services in the background, build a new set of revenue-generating data-based services. The real key there, though, is the conviction that the CEO had. And I think it sort of reflects the four insights I want to talk a little bit about this morning, what we see with our customers. And I'm going to tell you these four stories, and I'll start with this one. I think organizational buy-in can absolutely not be underestimated. I think in a lot of cases, tons of IoT projects fail. And if you think about the journey a little bit, lots of IoT projects fail, not necessarily because of technology. We wouldn't want to be naive to say all of technology is always easy. You have to touch devices and deploy them and build applications. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. But what you run into is a business challenge. So if we go back to, hey, if we're fundamentally trying to transform a business model, we have to have that deep organizational conviction or this isn't going to move forward. IoT is the land of POCs. And I think any of my colleagues from any of the other companies around the show today would probably agree with me. It often is the land of failed proof of concepts, right? People try things in the lab. You have some engineers. It doesn't necessarily have executive support. If you're going to push something into the pilot phase, which is really something that has deep organizational support, and into limited or full production across an organization, you really have to have all the parts of your organization's machine on board. And to me, it sort of equates to what are the characteristics of a modern digital business? Our customers like us, I mean, it starts with being customer obsessed. Hopefully this is why we are doing these things. And how you sort of think about organizing yourself. But really there's two parts of these characteristics I want to hone in on. One is having technology at your core, making it part of being your core competency. And the second, and I think the panel this morning with Avis talked a lot about this, is the strategic use of data. And so let's talk about this as sort of the second insight about technology being at your core. A lot of companies, not everyone has huge development teams and hundreds of data scientists on staff. And I think there's a challenge in the market on finding that talent and retaining that talent. I think one thing AWS is trying to do is find ways to train and grow new developers and new data scientists to help close that gap and make tools as easy as possible to make it easier for everyone to participate in building these kinds of applications. But it doesn't really matter if you don't see as an organization technology being your core competency. If you're buying a lot of black box technology off the shelf, you don't really understand that in the core of what you're doing, it's going to be hard to adapt. You're not really the master of your own destiny when it comes to using any of these services. And a lesson we learned at Amazon a long time ago was that the best way to go fast, the best way to be agile is to decompose applications to the lowest common point, and that's what drives agility. Too often, applications are built monolithically with huge teams supporting huge applications. And the trouble is, anytime you want to change anything, it becomes a massive production. You go from being, the small team, there's a couple of us in the garage, and I want to change something, I want to change the color from red to blue. 3 of us talk, it's great. When it's that massive thing, now it's something like NASA putting a lander on Mars. We have a huge operations center, and for any good reason, somebody might stop that process. If you go to a microservices approach, breaking things down in their component parts, now you can go fast, people working on smaller pieces, being able to innovate as quickly as possible. That's how we've grown our systems. That's how we created AWS. It's how we create all of our services. And it's how we're helping our customers do the same every day. And what does that have to do with IoT? Well, I think digital innovation is clearly driven at scale and speed with this approach of serverless microservices. What are serverless microservices? It's breaking applications down into the smallest possible parts. It's using managed services so you're innovating with the best tools, not laying out CapEx and owning the infrastructure, basically repeating what has been done before rather than consuming the best of the best available to you to build your applications. It helps drive business agility. It reduces undifferentiated heavy lifting. Why should you go figure out how to connect a device securely and at scale when that's been done so many times before, but rather consume that service so you can focus on the application for your customer? And it helps you optimize for cost. We fundamentally believe in cloud economics and IoT, helping you pay for only what you use, which is an important part of everything that we do. And I'll give you an example of our friends at Fender. Another great story of digital transformation. We all know Fender. They make beautiful instruments. They help millions of people around the world enjoy music and learn to play. It's really an amazing company. And as they've looked to transform their operations, they've moved to this approach of, hey, let's take a serverless and microservices approach, and let's own this technology internally. You wouldn't think necessarily of a guitar company being a tech company, but they absolutely are. And they're using our IoT services behind the scenes to help the artisans that build their guitars through visual sensors and ML and AI to pick the wood that goes into a guitar, to look for manufacturing defects, to optimize their supply chain and do other analytics on their equipment. It's an awesome story, and it's part of their fundamental shift, a digital transformation shift in their business. And so they're consuming our services. I'm not going to make this a big ad for our services, but it's the reason why in the IoT world, we've broken up our services into this toolbox, all things that are consumable by you that you can put together to solve any problem that you're looking to, whether it's connecting devices at scale, whether it's operating out at the edge, whether it's extracting the value from the machine data. We've got that right tool set for you. You worry about innovating for your customers, and we make sure that the infrastructure is there behind the scenes. Now, the thing about the edge, all of our customers say, look, you have to operate at the edge. I think that's absolutely clear. I think IoT is one of those areas of technology where there are durable reasons why you need it to be at the edge. Now, I think there's a journey even at the edge. I don't think we're talking about the same old IT. We really want to have the modern tool chain, even in environments where traditional IT maybe wasn't available to you. So you think about the edge. whether it's a harsh environment with limited connectivity or limited IT support. Maybe it's a temporary site that you're going to spin up or spin down. Maybe it's a site that needs to operate in case of connectivity loss. These are all issues, right? Latency, safety systems, and any system that generates massive amounts of data way out at the edge, it can be impractical or expensive potentially to move that data away from that site to do things like analytics and machine learning. So what we've tried to do, an example is one of our services called AWS IoT Greengrass, is extend parts of our cloud tool chain out to the edge to bring a little bit of AWS out to your devices. Greengrass is essentially an edge runtime that runs on hardware from many of our partners in the hardware space, industrial gateways and other devices, that allows you to push application code and machine learning inference to access all the capabilities of a device, all using the same tool set that you're familiar with in the cloud, but have it operate out at the edge. Now, you might say, that's great. Why is that such a big deal? Well, let me go back to my talent point from the beginning. If you're trying to grow developers, you find these amazing developers, which is so hard. It's going to be even harder if you have to now spin up one set of developers for the edge, one set of developers for the cloud, one set of developers for ML. You want to have this common tool chain. So the more we can give people the same tools, whether they're in the cloud or at the edge, to unlock the edge for the cloud developer and unlock the cloud for the embedded developer, that helps you from talent development and retention. And it's also a far more agile way to build applications. And it definitely isn't the sort of status quo IT out at the edge. It is a modern tool chain out at the edge. Now, when you're out at the edge, one of the things you want to do is try to make machines smarter. And nothing gets smarter without data. This might be kind of an obvious one, but a lot of our customers, as we've worked with them, have given us a few insights into both why it's so important and some of the challenges. And a great example is the work we're doing with Volkswagen. So we recently announced that Volkswagen is partnering with AWS to transform their digital supply chain. They're going to be using real-time data across 122 manufacturing plants to drive efficiency and drive how they build and assemble cars and trucks. It's an amazing project that we're really proud of, and the work there is getting underway. And we're learning a lot from these kinds of engagements, both with Volkswagen and with other customers in sort of the similar size and scale. And the real issue here is you get into this cycle. The thing about analytics and AI and ML is you have a cycle of generating data. I think is something that's relatively easy. A lot of the equipment that we use generates lots of data. Many of our industrial customers say, hey, we've been collecting that data for a really long time, whether it's with existing historians and databases or existing applications. There really does get to a point of a challenge of those stockpiles of data become locked. And so one of the things our customers have asked us for is, hey, how do we liberate that data much more easily? And there's some considerations. Some of that data has to exist out on the edge. It has to stay in a facility. Take like a utility or a manufacturing plant where there's a life of plant records requirements as an example. Those things you don't want to avoid. But you also don't want to have it so locked into existing systems that it becomes somewhat unusable. You also have the issue of combining OT and IT when you're building these applications. If I have perfected my manufacturing process, I've gone and spent the money to build these amazing facilities, I'm not just abandoning the OT side of what I've done because some technology provider came up with some newfangled way of doing ML. That's not going to work. I might ruin the return on investment for an entire factory or a facility. I may not have time. Some of our customers can't even shut down operations long enough to do that implementation. And so when you think about things like Greengrass, one of our strategies has been, how do we come in alongside these industrial operations? How do we listen to that OT infrastructure? How do we extract data in a way that is non-disruptive to the facility, but allows you to extract enough data, then put it into that modern tool chain so you can actually build modern applications and drive deep analytics and ML to drive the business results that you're looking for. An example here is the work we've done with a product called Sitewise. Sitewise, which is in preview, and if they could go backwards one slide for me, it would be deeply appreciated to everyone in the AV booth that's listening. Thank you. That's why they're great back there. The Sitewise product is really all about a gateway that sits on-premise in an industrial and a manufacturing facility, interfaces with existing systems like OPC UA servers and other historians and databases, and interacts with a gateway and a piece of collector software that tags and maps and cleanses data and prepares it basically as an on-ramp to the cloud. And once you do that, you're able to push that data into existing applications, build new sets of analytics, and build new machine learning models for inference in the future. The great example, since we bounced back and forth on the slide a few times, is the work we're doing with Bayer, where they're using Sitewise to connect to existing precision agriculture systems, extract data from both brownfield and greenfield equipment, the equipment that they already have and the equipment that's coming, extract important data, map their facilities, and basically be an on-ramp for that data back to the cloud for deeper analytics. And what you end up with is a cycle. And this is really ultimately what we want to get to. This cycle of using the cloud to train ML models, using the cloud as the basis for analytics, and using the edge for inference. Machine learning is CPU hungry. Inference is data hungry. You want to be in the cloud when you're CPU hungry. You want to be at the edge when you're data hungry. Some of that data will never leave the edge. You want to be able to have that same set of tools. And so the cycle we think about is, ingesting data into the cloud through our IoT services, processing it with our analytics services and our new ML services like SageMaker, building ML models that get deployed back out to the edge, that interact with data and devices, that generates new insights and new data, and that cycle continues. And that's the model that we've been working with so many customers on so far. And then the nice thing is, the tool set becomes very familiar. You're training people once. You're deploying through the cloud, so you're using a common set of tools. And finally, the thing I would leave you with, the last tip, is that there really is no compression algorithm for experience. This is a really important one. When we work with a lot of our, particularly industrial customers, these are companies who have been building things, who have built expertise for decades, maybe hundreds of years. They have deep, deep, deep knowledge of their industries. That experience, you cannot compress that experience. I think that in a lot of cases, we try to apply some of the new technologies in sometimes a somewhat naive way, bypassing some of that experience. And at AWS and at Amazon broadly, we understand this, right? If you just think about, my cousins and the rest of Amazon, just think of all the things that we do every day that touch on the world of IoT. From our fulfillment centers and operations and robotics, to our consumer devices, to our logistics and transportation, to our new consumer experiences. These are all IoT applications. For me, it's kind of great because this becomes like the living laboratory that we get to have a new depth of customer obsession. But what it really teaches us, look, these things can be hard, and you gotta sometimes have the battle scars of experience to understand what it takes to do it at scale, to do it easily, to do it repeatably, and in a way that actually drives the business results that you want. And so when we work with customers, while we don't necessarily always commercialize for everyone all of what we do, although there's great examples in image recognition and in our forecast tool around ML where we do bring that experience forward, it's really the understanding that, hey, the demo with a simple board and a simple environment on Wi-Fi isn't going to work in a very complex, EM-rich fulfillment center kind of environment at scale when you're talking to thousands and thousands of devices. Any demo with one device is great, probably works perfectly. A demo with 1 million devices, the unknown unknowns of what it really takes creeps in. And this is kind of the experience that we've gotten not only with our external customers, but internally as well. And we add to that this network of amazing partners. So as you're building that habit of having technology at your core, and you are looking for help, whether it's at the hardware side or one of our OEMs or ODMs, in connectivity or in solution building, we have this incredible universe, and just a fraction is represented on this slide, of partners in the IoT space that can bring either highly focused expertise, vertical expertise, or solution expertise to help you go even faster. So hopefully, those are 5 points that helps you understand, get that organizational buy-in, have technology, at your core, think about being out at the edge in the right way, understand how to unlock and liberate data, and make sure you understand that there's no compression algorithm for experience, whether it's yours or teaming with somebody who has it. Those are 5 things that we've seen with a lot of our customers that have driven success. Hopefully the rest of the show is amazing. It was a pleasure to be back. Thanks very much. Come visit us at booth 918.